Fish Report here, and Bobby Belt there. You probably know Bobby Belt if you're a Cowboy guy. And what I know about Bobby, because we've been friends for 8-9 years.
Yeah.
Bobby, right? But Bobby's gone about this right. To get where he is now, it's been a grind. It is being about the technical side of media and the statistical side and sports writing and on camera and off camera on the rest. And then finally, after 10 years, you got a haircut.
I know. Yeah, it's all gone, man. It's starting to thin here too. It's making me sad. I'm getting old.
It's making me happy because you look like a damn businessman.
there we go.
Bobby Belt, who you can find on Twitter at
Bobby Belt TX.
And of course, who now does great work as the Boy Friday for Jane Slater on NFL Network. I want to start with the idea of the mock draft and what I used to think about everybody's public mock draft. Bobby, I used to do this thing where that was kind of a bit, but I thought it was funny. I don't care about the golf shot you almost made. I don't care about your fantasy football team. I don't care about the 7th grade cheerleader you almost kissed. And I really don't care about your mock draft. But that's somehow the world and the NFL has changed all that, at least that last one, right?
Yeah, no, I think so. And especially, it's funny. This is such a weird year, I think, for everybody. Like, as much as everybody said last year was such a weird year with COVID for these NFL front offices, it really didn't hit until like the last month leading up to the draft. And so they did all their normal cursory work leading into it. This time around, they didn't. They got a whole year taken away from them, essentially. Scouts who normally were able to be on campus and talk to players and talk to, individuals associated with schools who would give them good information about guys. They're not getting any of that normal background work that they would. And so they're not interacting with other scouts as frequently as they would while they're out on the road and getting a sense of where everybody is. So I think it is, I've heard some chatter that, there are some scouts who are paying a little bit more attention to some of these media mock drafts and stuff. And okay, which beat writers maybe have a beat on things and understand where this team is going. And so I think everybody, it's a unique draft, I think, not just for media and fans, but I think really for a lot of these teams and their personnel departments. It's been a more different experience than anyone they've ever had.
And of course, the smart NFL teams are grabbing every bit of information and throwing it into the pot of gumbo and figuring it out. Dating all the way back, this goes back 40 years now. Remember Joel Bushbaum, right? The smart teams had a Joel Bushbaum guide in their drawer, and it exists. And you should pay attention now because there's plugged-in media guys. Again, there's also, though, so much smoke screening. And we know the Cowboys have talked to teams above them. We know they have, including Detroit. What do you think the Cowboys would want to do if they found a way to move up? And why should they move up?
I think if they're moving up to Detroit, I think it's to try and get their pick of the corners. It's they want to have their say, and they're concerned probably that a Denver or somebody like that may go get a corner. I think if they went up as high as 4, which I don't think is as much of a possibility, but I know it's at least been a chatter, not firsthand with the Cowboys, but you hear some chatter in the agent community and some of these places that maybe Dallas has, had some of these discussions or at least kicked around the idea of 4. And if they went all the way up to 4, which again, that could be smoke, I think that would be more about potentially Pitts or Sewell at that point. But I think if you're jumping up to 7, you're probably just you don't want to be left with a corner. You want to be able to pick of the 2 corners you want. But ultimately, I still think it's likely, out of all the possibilities of trade up, trade back, which I think they could do either of those conceivably, I think it's still more likely that they just stand in there and pick at 10.
Yeah, I do too. Here's the lack of wisdom for me, Bobby, about moving up to 7 with Detroit. And we know they're absolutely having conversations there. Mm-hmm. To throw in an extra pick to secure Surtain when you can just sit there and take Horn. The difference between those 2 players isn't substantial enough to bother. Now, to me, tell me if you agree on Pitts. I think you do. Pitts is a special guy.
Yes.
So I'll have that conversation at 4, but I've got to pay a quarterback price, and I'm unwilling to do that. What about you? Your thoughts on Pitts?
See, I think everybody is ready to get me canceled on social media because I love Kyle Pitts. I think he's a special player. I wouldn't be pleased with Kyle Pitts at 10 unless you've got other moves set up to move and clear up. My whole argument here has been when Dak Prescott was in there, the offensive line was healthy and they were humming along. It was 500 passing yards and 40 points a game. And I don't think you've maxed out your passing game essentially. So I think if you get Kyle Pitts, it is a net neutral effect for this year because all you're doing is you're divvying up the pie differently. I don't think you can expand the passing game pie any more than you did. So if you were to move up to 4 and then take Pitts, I would be less of a fan of that than even standing in at 10 and taking him. But regardless, if they were to target Pitts, I think that day, not just in the near future or coming in on Friday, I think that Thursday you need to have a trade lined up to move one of the receivers out. Because it's just not I don't think it's a wise use of capital to just say we're picking Pitts and that's it.
Okay, but when you build your Bobby Belt big board, where do you have Pitts?
Oh, I mean, I think outside of quarterbacks, he'd be in the top 2 or 3.
Yeah, see, me too. I think he's the second best player in the draft. So you're really going to pass at 10 on the second best player in the draft?
I mean, I think that when you've looked at, and I know he's different, but I mean, I think when you've looked at the past, some of these different tight ends, we could be talking about you're trading up to go get Vernon Davis, or you're trading up to go get Eric Ebron, or you're trading up to go get Noah Fant. And those are nice players. Those are not players that I would want to sacrifice the first big piece of draft capital you've had since, the rookie seasons of Dak and Zeke. And again, not unless if you're going to get Pitts, I can get on board with that, but you've got to have something lined up to replenish your defense with a trade, whether it be of Cooper or Gallup or whoever.
The other thing you could do, obviously, when we're done with this draft, because every team, and it's kind of weird to me, they ignore free agency right now. Nobody cares about free agency, including teams, which I always thought was backwards. Seems like right now would be a good time to go on the down low and tell a guy, listen, we don't have much money, but if you're interested. But can't the Cowboys after the draft then call Richard Sherman, Casey Hayward, and say, we didn't draft a cornerback high, although I think they will, but we didn't. So now let's bring in, here comes Casey Hayward at $3 million. Doesn't that solve the same issue?
Yeah, I mean, you're obviously, it's one of those blue star specials, though. Some of those work out. Randall Cobb, injury-prone history, came out, played really well for you, and was a valuable addition, not just as a player, but in the locker room, was instantly a big-time locker room leadership piece. And then other times they don't. Other times they go exactly what you thought. Gerald McCoy.
Don Terry.
Yeah, and so Casey Hayward specifically being an injury risk like he's always been, and that's always been a concern. And some of these other guys that are out there, I could see them taking a flyer on. But yeah, I think that would need to be, a contingency, or I think you'd have to have and I don't think the Cowboys get out of the top 100 without taking a cornerback. They probably don't get out of their first pick without taking a cornerback. I still think that's likely. But even still, I think day 2, you can find a good starting cornerback to put opposite Trayvon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs was a day 2 pick. And then if you want to go out and try and find a blue star special to supplement that, then, I think everybody would get on board with that kind of a thing.
Brian Broaddus thought this was a terrible question because he's a crusty old grump. Kavanaugh thinks it's a delightful question because it's the fun of it. What is the Bobby Bell first and second round Cowboy Dream scenario? They nail it and they nail it and having a party.
What is my view of a perfect one, or what do I think the Cowboys would view as a home run?
Give me both.
My view of it, I think a home run would be if Penei Sewell falls to you. And you can take Penei Sewell, and then there's such corner depth that I think you could get a pretty good one at 44. Or I'd be in favor of a trade back and go get Trayvon Merrick, the TCU safety. Pick him up later in the first, get a couple more darts to throw in the top 100. So that would be mine. I think for them, it would be getting the cornerback of their choice. I mean, obviously they like Kyle Pitts, but I think if they were to stand at 10, what they're realistically looking at, I think they think get the cornerback of their choice, and then potentially a difference maker on actually, I think, the defensive line. I could see them targeting a Joseph Osai from Texas at 44 as an edge rusher.
Very good. A lot of people say that my job allows me to live a dream, and it's true. But Bobby, you're in the same boat, and I'm really proud of what you've built. When we get to Thursday, Friday, and the rest, Bobby Belt will be sniffing around the star. Get more information from him. Go find his Twitter account and his other info, Bobby,
at Bobby Belt TX.
Thank you, Robert, and congratulations. Your wife must be delighted with her new husband with a hair.
I mean, yeah, she's pretty thrilled. She finally got her wish, and it's just one of 1,000 things that she's still working on changing.
Yeah, she's a lovely woman, but no wife wants her husband to have hair than she has.
No, exactly. Yeah, she was getting jealous of the luscious locks, I think. Now it's Kavanaugh's turn. Cut your hair, Jeff.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you, Robert. Great job.
Thank you, Michael.